Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to the RAPC US Season number 1 pre-qualifying here at Le Mans. My name is Daniel Handover and joining me in the commentary box for the second time this evening, he will be commentating, is Mr. David Christie. We are at the infamous mod. We have only recently, a couple of hours ago, finished the European Le Mans, and now we're going to go straight into the European series here, and now we're going to go straight into the US. The pre-qualifying rounds are the same rounds here, so everyone that was in the US season, obviously for this one here, has actually got a little bit of a advantage. They've been having a quick look, haven't they, David, at what's been going on with the EU season.
Yeah, for sure. We saw quite a few of them in the YouTube chat earlier on tonight, and my goodness me, Dan, I've only just started to recover from tonight's race. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. To see 40 cars all within 0.2 of a second of each other, it was just absolutely all brilliant stuff, and really hoping we get exactly the same here tonight.
I'm sure we will do. Qualifying is underway, or just about to go underway, I should say, and then we'll be bringing you the action of all that happens. There is going to be a small little break. We're going to go away for a few minutes once qualifying has finished, because we will then get all the grid sorted for you for the race itself, and that's when we'll come back, and obviously we will then be able to push you forward with the main event, a 75-minute endurance race here at Le Mans. We were talking about this as well, David. I actually took part in the EU race a couple of hours ago now, and we were talking about this fuel saving. That is going to be the key strategy when it comes to this round here. It's just got to be, because if you don't fuel save, you are going to be at quite a disadvantage.
100%, and obviously you'll have more experience than I will of this, Daniel, from your time out in the EU race earlier on. But what we were seeing through the first pre-qualifying race over in Europe was drivers, like 10 to 15 drivers in that pro class. They were all nose to tail coming down the Mulsanne straight. And what we were noticing was there was actual bump drafting going on. So there was actual contact from the rear to push the car up in front. And that saves fuel for the car behind because it's got to do less work. But it also forces the car in front, it's going at a higher RPM. So it's using more fuel as well. So it's a double whammy there, and we saw that really, really coming to the fore. And the first half an hour of the 75-minute race was incredibly clean, incredibly crisp, and then all hell started to break loose with the final 15 minutes. So that could be what to watch out for as well. Obviously, we've got the 3 different classes out in force as well. We've got the Pro class, we've got the Pro-Ams, and the Ams as well. And I'll tell you what, if it is the same as what we had earlier, do not read anything into it, because there was nothing amateur about the way those AMs were racing earlier on.
Certainly not. It was a very, very impressive timeout. Just going forward, we are currently on board with, this is Thomas Marino. We go through the Porsche curve for the second time. There are 3 timed laps here as well, as everyone has 3 lone qualifying time laps. You can see the times down here. So currently, John Botifa setting the pace with a 4:68. Expect that time to come down a little bit once everyone gets settled into their respective times. You can see again on the left-hand side, we currently have, excuse me, on the left-hand side, we have the different classes. White indicates your Pro class, blue indicates your Pro-Am class, and then red indicates your Am class. And as you can see here, got quite a bit of a mixture actually, which again shows just how close and just how quick everything actually is, and how quick these drivers really are. Glenn Olsen, I mean, have a look. In the Am category, leading, is actually currently 9th overall as well. Absolutely staggering stuff.
It really is, and I'm also actually seeing here the disparity in the times. Now, obviously, what we've got to take into consideration is different times, different track conditions potentially. I mean, maybe they're all on the same conditions, but the times massively different from what we were seeing, Daniel, to earlier on. So, for example, we were seeing 356s, 357s being put in during the race, and at the moment, it's not like it's just 1 or 2 that are are off of that. The whole field is off of that by about 4 or 5 seconds. So interesting to see why that is.
Yeah, like you said, you are right. You could very well be having a little bit of adjustments here in terms of the track state. That is certainly something to keep an eye out for. Might not necessarily be everything. Again, track conditions could be marginally different. It does vary, and it does depend, because at the moment we're not 100% sure. If anything, we're not really going to know until we actually have a chat with some of the drivers as to what is actually going on in regards to the track conditions. We will have a bit of an understanding, but again, it's just not going to be 100%. In fact, let's have a quick look at the weather if we can. We will try and get that up for you in a few moments' time. But yeah, everyone's just got to make sure they just set clean, consistent laps at this point. Le Mans is a period of time, and Le Mans is a track where you just want to set clean, consistent laps. You don't want to be pushing the car too aggressively, especially early on. If you start pushing early on, you end up battling, you end up losing time to the car in front. It just costs you a significant amount of time here. So you do have to be so very careful. Currently now on your screen, El Urixoy for the Twisted Racing White number 63. Currently sitting in P20, although that is P2 overall. Again, we are going to be changing the timing tower for you in a few moments' time, so it will make a little bit more sense as to who is where. But going forward as well, Le Mans is such a tricky track. Not only is it in terms of racing, and this is something as well we saw, David, you were seeing earlier on, that when we're battling, or when we are trying to obviously battle, it's very, very tricky to know when to push and know when not to. And that was one of the things that I was struggling with a little bit. And it was actually, it really was quite difficult, because it sucked me in a few times where I was trying to battle and I was thinking, oh, actually, hang on, no, I don't want to. I want to sit back. I want to stay back. I don't want to push simply at this moment in time, because otherwise it would just become a detriment to yourself. Now running on board with everyone as we go through Porsche curves. Again, just have a look and have a listen to that car as well. You'll hear the balance of the throttle here as well. Nice and controlled through. You hear it blend on, then it will come off again once more, and then it will go back on. So yeah, you've got to be a little bit cautious. You've got to be a little bit careful as well. Ultimately, though, it really does depend on... Commitment is a very, very big thing here. It's not everything. It's certainly not everything. Apologies, we now do have audio there, not 100% sure what that was, so apologies for that. The audio is now back with us. Yeah, everyone manages to go through, pushes it up now into, that's certainly some positions gained. P19 overall, P2 in class, that was the last of his laps. That will be Errol's last lap with a 4:04.56. Provisionally, El Urixoy in second. Now Dean Timms will go through in the Pro-Am category, the number 46. The Eclipse Racing Team, striking looking livery to say the least in this car. One more lap to go, I believe this will be for Dean Timms. Yes, it is. Can confirm that is the final lap for Dean. 14 minutes and 25 seconds.
That is a pretty looking car.
It's great looking, isn't it?
Gorgeous looking livery on that thing, and I was just about to say, Dan, as well. I've been in your position before, where behind the scenes it's like a one-man band, and you've got about 15,000 buttons to press, and you get to commentate on the race at the same time. So yeah, you're in for an absolute treat tonight, because poor Mike Yao, who was on broadcast earlier, everything was going on at the same time, and you had like 15 battles going on at different points in the track. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because you mentioned there about not being sure whether to attack or not, and that's the thing with the track being so long here at Le Mans, 8.5 miles almost. You're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because if you make a move, then you can guarantee that the car's going to try and get in the slipstream behind you, and then go and try and take that again. And that's what we were seeing all the way through the race earlier on, was that it was just this constant to and froing battle. And if you're clever, you can bump draft the car in front, work together. That's where the smart money is. Work with the car in front of you to get up and to push the car up as far as you can. Once you're in the top 3, top 4, then it's every man for themselves.
It's a Very, very true point. Very, very true indeed. Eric Kalaga is actually one of the last people to go through. And do you know what? I think this lap, so Eric Kalaga, this is actually just a practice lap because Eric Kalaga is done at the moment. He doesn't need to put, this is his last lap time. I think he's actually just sort of cruising around. It's a good opportunity though. If you've got some more time to push forward, absolutely may as well. Eric Kalaga is actually sitting in P5 in class. You can now see on the left-hand side as well, it has now changed. Okay, so you can see that they are class dependent now. Left-hand side of your timing tower, and they will also be the same when you bring up the battle box as well. For the Vulture Motorsports driver number 66 of Eric Kalaga goes through Arnage. Again, this is a little bit of practice for this time, and I think we'll just go through, again, if we can, we'll go on board. We're just going to watch the remainder of this lap going through. The main thing, again, is the consistency, it's the control. Porsche curves rewards control, doesn't reward speed. You go in slower than you initially think, you have to bring the car around, especially the first section. The first section of Porsche curves, it then really dictates what happens with the second. So you get a slightly wide turning, get the car to come in, ride the curb on the inside, you then want to find that curb on the left. You don't want to go too shallow, otherwise you'll cost yourself a little bit of time. As close to the wall as you dare over the curb, and again, this one, control through this right-hander. This right-hander, hold the inside, it's as long as you can possibly go. Again, just through there, you can just see where the car's actually pushing a little bit too wide. So all Eric needs to do in that situation is just to back off a little bit, let the car rotate onto the corner with a little bit less pace, and then you can start picking up that throttle again. Yeah, it's very, very tricky as Eric Kalaga comes into pits now, as we would have expected. And that is everyone for qualifying. Then once we've got that, I think we'll be able to put everyone through. Oh, well, we'll be able to go through now and run through everyone the final finishing results. We may not go through the results here. We may instead go through the results at the grid when the grid comes up, ready for the 75-minute race. But there will be a period of downtime now for the moment while we get everything sorted for you, and then we will be ready to go for this 75-minute race. Having raced a couple of hours ago to commentating and broadcasting this time around, I am very excited. It's nice to see two different. It would be nice to see two different options, wouldn't it? And nice to see two different things and sort of two different, I suppose, approaches to what is going to be some fantastic racing from what you were saying earlier on, David.
Yeah, it's really going to give you a different viewpoint here, Dan, because obviously when you're in the thick of it, the adrenaline is absolutely bouncing through you, and you can only really sort of see the battles that you're involved with out there on track. Whereas obviously up here in the virtual commentary box, we get the joy of seeing many different things unfolding out on track, and that's exactly what I think. Although with seeing the time spread out a little bit more than we did in the EU server earlier on tonight, I'm thinking that we could see a little bit more fireworks here, because you've got some cars there that are maybe a little bit further down than you'd think they would be, likes of, say, Ryan Kaprowski, Wilson Brewer. But we do have to say, I mean, Glenn Olsen for getting that 15th position, P1 in class, and being right in the middle of some of those Pro-Am cars. That is a scalp and a half right there.
We've seen this as well, yeah, absolutely. It's certainly not. You have to take into consideration that a lot of people are. Well, Le Mans is just one of those circuits. Le Mans is one of those circuits where you need to try and put yourself in a position where you may find drivers that really suit Le Mans. And you may find other drivers that don't quite suit Le Mans. It's a very, very unique circuit to drive, and I don't think it's a Marmite related. It's not like a Marmite track. I think it's generally liked by the motorsports fan base. I almost think it's liked, but is it liked to be driven? I think that's where some disparity comes in. Some people just don't enjoy the way that the track flows. I know I've spoken with a couple of people, and they don't like the fact that you have to save the fill, you have to say this, you have to say that. I can completely understand it though, because you're having to almost, in a way, you're not racing based on that. You're racing based on strategy almost, rather than on track itself. So I can see where people are coming from there, but at the same time, I love Le Mans personally. It's one of my all-time favourite tracks, having been there 3 or 4 times myself, and it's just an amazing experience to go there, and we have an opportunity to race it in the sim world, which I think is also.
I'm going to commit a bit of sacrilege here. So up until maybe about 2 years ago, I wasn't really fussed about Le Mans. It wasn't really a track that
Oh
I
my God,
watched. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It wasn't a track that I'd watched. It wasn't a track I hadn't sat down and properly watched the WEC or the 24-hour Le Mans or anything like that. I love Nürburgring. We'd sit and watch it, but for some reason I had never really sat down and enjoyed Le Mans. And let's say it was when my co-commentator up at Knockhill, Duncan Vincent, started working at Le Mans and pit lane and doing some of the pit lane stuff, and I was like, all right, okay, well, we'll get into this, and I'm like, I'm beating myself up over it. I'm like, why the hell have I not watched this before? What am I doing here? And then yeah, you start getting to the track. I think it was because it's a road course that's so long and it's so sort of it just goes on and on and on. It's not like Nürburgring where it's just like sweeping and there's constant turns and things like that. And then you actually go and look at the track and you're like, well, no, there is plenty of action. There is plenty to keep a driver entertained. And yeah, I'm probably never going to regret saying that one. But yeah, I mean, like, it's been one of those that's a very late addition to me. But watching it now, I mean, I totally get it. I can only imagine how incredible actually being at the track to watch the event would be. And for me, actually, as a track now, I think, personally, I think this is like a little bit better than the likes of Spa.
Really?
Yeah, I would put this track above Spa in terms of the excitement that it generates, in terms of the action, in terms of like Spa is, you take away Eau Rouge and Radion and you take away about 80 to 85% of the excitement, I think, at Spa, whereas Le Mans has got Circuit de la Sarthe has got so much character all the way through it, even round to like the Dunlop curves, Tetra Rouge down to Arnage. There's just so much potential. There's so many areas that could be absolute powder kegs, and yeah, I totally get it now.
Okay, interesting. It's good. I mean, at the end of the day, whenever you get into Le Mans, it's great. It's absolutely perfect. We are actually going to be taking just a few minutes break while we change over to the servers, and then we will be back with you in a few moments' time. So make sure, if you haven't already, please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, get involved on the stream. It'd be good to hear from you. We will be back in around about 2 or 3 minutes. Get ready for round 1 pre-qualifying here of the Porsche Cup US Series, sponsored by Race Anywhere. Make sure you stick around. Back in a few moments.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endurance series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here and ready to go for the pre-qualifying event to the RAPC US Season 1 Championship. My name is Daniel Handover. If you have just joined us, I am joined by David Christie for this evening's action-packed racing. And we are just finishing the warm-up, ready to get going. Another minute or so, and then we'll be able to bring you the grid. As you can see, drivers just trying to get a final bit of practice in here. Practice here, David. Any practice is good practice, I think, is it? It's probably the best way to. It's probably the best way to describe it.
It certainly is, especially with this brand new Porsche Cup car, the 992, that was very recently brought into to iRacing. It's all about being able to be comfortable and consistent with this car. It's such a tricky beast to tame. About 510 brake horsepower and just over a ton. I think it's something like 1,260 kilos. So that puts the power to weight ratio at about 485 brake horsepower per ton. It really is a very capable beast, and the great thing about these one make series is that they lead to some incredible action out there on track. So as you say, drivers just possibly not even just getting used to the car, but also maybe doing some last minute tweaks to their setups with weather, with the heat and the temperature of the track, and just trying to make sure they can get as much out of the car as they possibly can.
That's a very good point as well. It is certainly not something that you need to. It's something you can't take lightly. You have to make sure you make adjustments as and where needed. Speaking of which, grid will be coming up for you in a few moments' time, and we'll be getting ready to go for round number 1. Thank you to everyone. If you have just joined us, we look forward to this evening's racing, and we look forward to having you with us as well. Make sure you get involved as well in the comments. Let us know who you're supporting for. Yeah, it's nice to see and it's nice to hear about the supporters, and nice to hear who you are supporting for. So we are being able to bring in the audio for. Sorry, the audio? No, we're not bringing the audio for you. Instead, we're going to bring you the grid, and here it is. So Thomas Marino taking pole position. The red faced by JRT number 77. John Botifer taking P2 with James Pearson 3rd, Justin Ream 4th, Harry Wills in P5 with Daniel Tenorio in 6th, Ryan Caprasi takes 7th, Wilson Brewer in P8, Dave Medino in 9th, Jonathan Collette in 10th, and then Alex Treba taking P11 for your pro class. If we move a little bit further down the order, you can see now we have the Pro-Am category, James Costa, Michael McCoy. We then have Chris Long, Dean Timms, Eric Kalaga, Michael Kalaga, Stephen Martinez, John D. Cooper, Casey Metzger, Jay Steffi, Jeremy Littleton in P11, and then a little bit further down as well. Apologies, couldn't quite see who was in. Well, that was Brent Bravata, and then Andrew Rasmussen in. Andrew Rasmussen, and then Brent Bravata in 13. Drivers are making their way through. We're going to run you through very quickly the AM category as well. Have a little bit of time. Let us go through. And the AM category is as follows. Glenn Olsen, Eric Soy in 2nd, Bruno Alcaraz in 3rd, Travis Kepler in 4th, Jason Bridges P5, Gary Brown in 6th, and then Michael Johns in 7th. Andrew Hewitt takes P8 this time out. Daniel Floria in 9th, Drew Neubauer in P10, Andrew Hewson in 11th, and then Stephen Vadja in P12 for Team Premat, the number 97. That is your grid. But round number 1, I say it's round number 1, it's not. It's pre-qualifying. I'm going to continue to say it's round number 1, but it's not round number 1. David, what are we expecting here?
Absolute madness. It was very clean and prim and proper at the start of this race earlier on, so that's what we got there. I obviously got completely baffled by the three different class starts because obviously from Assetto Corsa Competizione we don't have this. So this is obviously the pros that are starting, then later on will be the Pro-Ams, then it will be the AMs. So they set off in three separate fields of about 15 cars each. Watch for the pros, watch for that run down to Dunlop curve. We had it clean and tidy. I don't know if we're going to get the same here.
Well, let's find out. Drivers come round. The start procedure is they are allowed to get round to the last possible go. The green does not necessarily mean green. They can go any point here now until the start-finish line. Where are they going to go? Where is Marino going to go? And in fact, there it is. That is it. We are now away for the race. Seems to be a pretty even start throughout the field in the pro class. You can see a little bit further now, Harry Wills already trying to get involved a little bit, as you can see, side by side with his teammate. That's a brave move nevertheless, but manages to get it all through as they all filter down now into turn 2, turn 3, going down under the Dunlop Bridge. Seems to be still side by side Harry Wills and Daniel Tenorio. All seems to be looking good. Apart from that, though, that is it for your, it seems to be all pretty even Stevens as it stands. And now we're going to go through down into what's happening here for the Pro-Am category. Go through what is happening here. They're now going through, coming down into turn 1 and 2. Again, once again, going under the Dunlop complex. We are getting a little bit of battling here. Michael Kalaga and Mexico having a bit of a tussle early on. Seems to be controlling themselves now, and that's it. So James Costa has pulled away. He's got about 3/10 already on Chris Long in P2. And then now coming down into the Pro-Am, in the Am category, we currently have Glenn Olsen still leading the way. With Errol Luriksoy in second, Travis Kepler in third, Bruno Alcaraz in fourth, and Gary Brown actually top 5 at the moment. Seems to have spread out already a little bit. We've got a bit of tussle. We're down into the far end. Steven Vajja getting a little bit screwed. He already made up 2 positions, so fair play indeed to Steven Vajja. That's very, very good stuff indeed. What's happening up? We've already got side-by-side action. Look at this. This is the Pro-Am field. Side-by-side going down. James Costa tries to go through. Tries to hold that position off Chris Long. Chris Long has made... Oh, there's a bit of contact between everyone. Oh, my goodness. That has not gone well. Do you know what? That was the best of a bad situation. A few drivers obviously were involved in that. Unfortunately, one of them being James Costa. But that could have been so much worse, and I'm so glad it wasn't. Who else? I think Dean Timms got involved with that as well. Michael McCoy, Wilson Brewer, Jonathan Lett. Quite a few people got involved in that, unfortunately, which is certainly not ideal. And oh my goodness, look at this cluster. This is the battle for the lead in the Pro-Am field. That's a bit of a brave move. Thought it was going to go side by side. It is going to go side by side. I thought it was going to go 3 wide at one point, but turns out it's not. All seems to be catching up here. Casey Metzger going side by side, still with John Cooper, who's not letting that position go easily. Oh my word, what is happening here? Eric Kalagas almost got a slowdown. Who was that? No, it's not Eric Kalagas. Jeremy Littleton has got a slowdown. So big shame there for... Actually, no, that might have been even... that was Metzger. Casey Metzger's got a slowdown. That is an absolute killer at the start of a race.
Yeah, and Pierce is now in the lead of the race. Then Mourinho takes second place. James Pierce up into the lead. They're side by side. Dan, you asked what to expect from the race. I'm afraid it's going to be a long 75 minutes, my friend. Your heart rate is going to go through the absolute roof. You have never seen anything like this, I promise you. It's absolutely nuts. And goes wide. James Pierce loses the lead. Thomas Mourinho straight back in. And it begins.
This is it. We've got the battle for top 4. You know, the top 4 cars now are just sort of like pushing forward at this point. I wonder if we're going to see a little bit more, maybe a little bit more battling for a couple of laps more, and then we're going to start to see everyone sort of like tail off a little bit, and everyone start to just control themselves, especially once everyone gets through. Because again, you don't want to push the cars too hard at this point. You really don't. I reckon James Pierce will just sort of sit behind now and just crack on. Maybe there is an opportunity to gain some additional positions. I don't know. It's tricky to say. Someone's gone off, though. I think that was Bruno Alcaraz. Yes, that's going off down into Indianapolis, so that's certainly not what you want, is it, to be fair? And Bruno Alcaraz, unfortunately, now dropped 6 positions from where he started. Daniel Flores is going to try and have a go up the inside. No? Yeah, he's actually up the inside. This is on board now with Daniel Flores. Bruno Alcaraz is just on the right-hand side, out of shot. But it's going to be a drag race coming down into the entry of Porsche curves. who's going to come on top. I think it's going to be Flores. Not giving up, is he, though? He wants that move, has to concede the position because, oh, that was aggressive from Bruno.
And he's off, straight off, goes Johns. That's off into the gravel trap, then locked up the brakes. The car pitches up, and that is going to be a positioning, excuse me, that's Alcaraz that did that there. And just to give you a little bit of context there, Dan, as well, with your race earlier on, you were in the Pro-Am class, and you had, I think it was about 5 cars you had in the battle at all times with you in that one until the pit stops came through. To give you some context, in the pros, they had 13 cars that were doing that 5-car battle that you had. So you imagine that, double it, and then add a couple more, and they were just constantly. And I will guarantee you, within 2 laps, that pro field is going to be bunched up to about 8 cars, maybe about 7 cars.
You're not too far wrong, and to be fair, there's 11 cars currently still. There's 11 cars still running in the Pro-Am field, so that could be very well over half the field. Drew Neubauer has made a small little mistake there and has cost himself a position. Stephen Vadger that goes up. No, actually, no, it's not. Apologies. It's Jason Bridges trying to go round the outside on the exit, going under the Dunlop Bridge, but Drew Neubauer decides against that and vetoes that move straight away. Speaking of the front, what is going on at the front? James Pearce has retaken the lead. And this was a little bit earlier on. We might try and get a replay of that in a few moments' time. But is Marino going to respond to it? I don't think he is at the moment. In fact, I think it's just going to be now. This is where it has started to become a little bit more settled. You can just see that, everyone's sort of taking it a little bit easier now, I think. They've got tyres warmed up now. They can lean on the car a little bit more if they want to. Is it worth it? Yeah, I don't know. I almost don't think so. Again, I could be completely wrong, but yeah, you're not far wrong, David, because have a look. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's pretty much, well, that's 6 cars that are within a striking distance. Ryan Kaprowski is the next person along in P7. That gap is 5 seconds. It's quite a hefty margin, but if we are seeing quite a lot of battling from these drivers up ahead, well, that's going to come down almost straight away. So it's certainly, with 75 minutes of this race, of which we've already gone through, it's like near enough 7 minutes on the second lap, there's a lot to play for and a lot at stake.
And this is what I couldn't understand during the broadcast earlier, is that I've never seen anything like this at all, Dan, where, you've got 6, 7, 8 cars all fighting it out on track, but like they're all lined up behind each other. We're so used to other broadcasts where you see them just firing it in. It's, oh my goodness me. Travis Kepler has the mother of all accidents completely by himself as well, but gets going again. But yeah, I wasn't used to this, seeing all these cars just line astern, but not sending it at every opportunity. It's just incredible to watch.
It certainly is. Going back now to your Pro-Am field, this is Jeremy Little and Michael Kalaga that are having a bit of a battle. You can see the battle for second in class in the bottom right corner of your screen. That is the battle box, and I believe very, very good move there. And actually, no, it was not. So Michael Kalaga was not able to get by Jeremy Liston. I'll tell you what, though, Chris Long, he's decided that he wants to have a crack at the back of Kalaga's car, the number 82. And is that going to be a thing? I don't think so. So Chris Long, yeah, he's just got to be a little bit cautious now. He's going to try and give it a go, though. Andrew Rasmussen, he's not too far back, though, as well. Have a look at that. Has a bit of a look. Is he actually going to try and force around the outside? That's a brave move. Nope, decides against it. Chris Long shuts the door nice and early there, naturally, as you would do, because he's got to try and take his normal racing line. Porsche curves is single file. I think you can pretty much safely assume that. We certainly have seen a little bit in the past. It hasn't been single file, and it doesn't necessarily tend to work very well when that is the case. But ultimately, we are certainly seeing it's all going up there. There's going to be some slowdowns there. That's the other thing as well. On the exit Porsche curves, okay, watch out for that curb on the outside. If you hit that curb on the outside and you don't come back on the track before the curb ends, that's a slowdown. You will get a slowdown and it will cost you about 3.5 seconds. So that is also another crucial thing. It may not affect you initially, but it will certainly affect you towards the end of the race, because that time that you're losing, it all starts to build up more and more gradually. Only a few cars ahead, though. We're now going to be focused on Eric Kalaga, who's going to have a bit of a defensive move, possibly from Jeremy Littleton. And you know what? Jeremy Littleton, straight up the inside. Eric Kalaga didn't actually fight that at all. So that is now going to be Littleton inheriting second place. Eric Kalaga being dropped down to third. Again, is there going to be too much of a worry there? I don't think so at this moment. I tell you what, Chris Long's going to have a bit of a look. Oh, that's a brave move by Chris Long. And he's gone up the inside of Michael Kalaga. Fair play indeed. What a cracking move from the number 90 CL Sim Sport driver.
Yeah, that's a great move. Just when you were talking there about track limits, it's that whole meme, isn't it? They say you cut the course, you're going to have to give up the time gains. It's, yeah, the words that any iRacer never, ever wants to hear. At the back of the Pro-Ams, Wilson Brewer's just taken a position from Jonathan Ouellette here. This is Brent Bravata in the number 9 machine, trying to keep himself out of harm's way there down in that Pro-Am machine. So he's obviously come a cropper and has decided to just pull to the side of the track, and that's a very good thing to do. Noticing that in Pro-Am as well, the 6th place card on the 17 of Daniel Tenorio kind of fallen off the back of that group as well. He was up about 0.4 of a second there, but he is now falling back quite quickly, and I'm wondering if he has got some damage on that car, because the rate that he's fallen back is very quick indeed. Either that or just makes a mistake. Meanwhile, back with Metzger here, Casey Metzger on the entry to the second chicane here in the 5th place, the number 5 car. It is actually, believe it or not, 5th place in Pro-Am, so doing a cracking job there, but still trying to hold on to that position from Kulaga. Now, I wonder if Eric and Michael Kulaga are actually related there, Dan.
I believe they are. I believe they are indeed. You're absolutely correct. Up the further field, though, so we've got the Battle of the Brothers. It's cracking on a little bit further. I believe they're brothers. I believe they are. I have a feeling. I could be wrong, but I'm sure I'm not.
Well, if they're not, they are for tonight.
If someone could confirm that in the chat feed, that would be fantastic. We just saw there as well a battle and a position change for the lead. Jeremy Littleton taking Stephen Martinez going into Mulsanne corner. But Stephen Martinez tries to make a move back. Who is that? Can't quite see who that was. It's going very slow, but that's certainly not ideal. Down a little bit further, we have got Casey Metzger versus Eric Kalaga, side by side down into Indianapolis. You've got to be last late breakers, and I tell you what, Casey Metzger manages to is the last late breakers going into Indianapolis. Again, very well sorted there by Kalaga. He's backed off at the right time. There's no need to go too wide down into Indianapolis. It's certainly something you don't want to do. Does it work? It certainly does not. I've been unfortunately both sides of that, and you really don't want that. It will cost you so much time. Up in the pro field, the tail end of the pro field, we've got Wilson Brewer versus Jonathan Ouellette. So these both are having a bit of a battle. James Pearce has had a moment, actually, a few seconds ahead. What on earth happened to James Pearce?
So there we go. That is a DNF for James Pearce. He's disappeared from the race, and that would make me think that he has gone bye-bye in a dramatic way. Let's have a look here. He's got a car up that is some sort of issue. He's gone into pit lane and he's just given up. He's just that's usually when I see something like that, that's usually a real life issue.
Yeah, as you say, it could be some form of technical issue with equipment. You get issues like this obviously in the real world. When you get mechanical failures, you can get mechanical failures as well with sim equipment. It's certainly not something you want to have happen, but it certainly can happen. It's happened to me before, and it's not pleasant by any stretch of the imagination. John Cooper actually had also had a bit of a moment as well. So John Cooper is the car that is certainly seen better days. That was the moment just going down into Indianapolis that we saw a few moments ago. John Cooper's car certainly looking like it has seen better days. Up and down the field, though, we've got a little bit of battling still cracking on. Daniel Tenorio, I don't know, he seems to have maintained now, and the position or the time loss is stagnated. It's not really going up or down anymore. So it just seems to be holding Tenorio holding his own at the moment. It may have just been a slowdown. That could have been the rate of drop, because the rate of drop there is quite aggressive. You haven't got too long to get rid of it, so you've got to get rid of it pretty quickly, otherwise you will find yourself with a penalty. So yeah, you've got to be... It's the long game. Like I said, we're talking about this as well, and we'll talk about this a long time, especially with these endurances that happen every other race in this season. It is playing the long game. Kalaga, though. So Kalaga versus Kalaga. Michael Kalaga trying to go up the inside. I thought that was going to be there for a brief moment, but it is not to be this time around. So, again, maybe working together at this point, just trying to catch up to Casey Metzger. 1.6 seconds ahead. You can just see Metzger there, the red car, on his lonesome at the moment. And then a little bit further up the field, you've now got Steven Martinez and Chris Long that go side by side. Chris Long, the number 90, has got a bit of damage, and that is probably why we saw Steven Martinez breeze past, but Chris Long is later on the brakes. That's allowed him back through. It's going to go side by side down into the second chicane, and Chris Long still manages to hold that position. Very, very impressive there, considering that Chris Long has got so much damage.
Yeah, that's right, and I'm a little bit concerned as to why they're not working together to try and catch up to Jeremy Littleton as we see Brent Bravata here. This is the car that we saw. Oh, and that's an unfortunate incident. Just spinning it at the Dunlops, very easy to do, but yeah, we saw him having a moment on contact. Michael John just gets absolutely booted up the rear end there. That is not what you want to see. Jason Bridges going straight on after that contact there, and that looks like some heavy damage on that car. But also a little bit of, and you see exactly what has happened there, Dan. He's waited till that car's gone back round. He knows that he made a mistake there, and there's no worse feeling this than when you accidentally hit another car.
No, there's not. No, you're right, and it is a big shame. Especially
if you mean it though.
Sorry, say that again. Never you cut out for a second.
Oh, sorry, I was saying different if you mean it though.
Well, I mean, certainly so. Yes, it's hopefully, obviously, that was not intentional. I think, to be fair, what happened? Maybe just a little bit of lift and coasting lifting coast got a little bit wrong. Just something of note as well. It just may have caught Jason Bridges out a little bit there when Michael John lifted off. We're actually sitting right now on the gearbox of Martinez, and we can see Chris. I tell you what, Chris Long is an absolute bandit on the brakes. Even though he's got damage, which, let's be honest, the car has seen better days, it absolutely sends it on the braking in every single braking zone. It is absolutely fantastic to watch. I am thoroughly enjoying myself here with watching it. It's just absolutely amazing. Steven Martinez goes a little bit wide. That's allowed Chris Long to catch up. But again, now you're going to see Steven Martinez not really lose too much time, because this is where it just turns out that the damage really starts to hurt Chris Long. It's not the track where you want. Although Steven Martinez has gone a little bit wide going into the second Ford chicane. Backs up. I tell you what, that could have gone very, very wrong very, very quickly. But kudos to Steven Martinez. Did not panic for one moment, and instead let it happen. Let the car wash a little bit wide. Regain the composure. Yes, you lose 2 positions. Is that better than having an accident and taking 2 cars out and yourself? Absolutely. So really, really well played there by Steven Martinez. He's got an opportunity now to settle back down. He can go through. That's one position possibly made up straight away, because I thought Casey Metzger was going. It went a little bit deep down into the Dunlop chicane, down into turn 2. Manages to keep it all in check. Oh my goodness, are we going to see Martinez go around the outside? Oh, we might do indeed. What a move there for Steven Martinez. Fair play indeed. This has actually played really nicely into the hands of Chris Long, who's just gone, well, you guys crack on. I'm just going to disappear off into the distance. Arguably, though, Steven Martinez, what a move that was.
That was amazing. And this is the thing as well, is the fact that, like I say, Dan, I've never seen anything like this, where that moment for Martinez earlier on, where he, went wide and let 2 cars by. Every other championship that I've commentated on, the car would have just kept the foot in and just tried desperately to keep the position and cause a huge accident. Whereas with this, it's I've never seen such calm and composed driving from all of these drivers. I'm absolutely loving this. Still can't believe we've got a 4-car battle for the lead up at the top of Pro-Am. We've had a change for the lead. Errol Erexoy's got the lead back from Glenn Olsen and AMS. But at the front of Pro-Am, it looks like Jeremy Littleton is very, very happy being, 5 seconds ahead.
Absolutely. You know what? I probably wouldn't be too opposed to that myself, to be perfectly honest. Steven Martinez. No, it's what I said. I'll certainly take it. Steven Martinez just making the move once again on Casey Metzger, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be. Well, actually, no. I think it may have been a possible bit of just defending there. Oh no, yeah. Steven Martinez did get past Casey Metzger. Yeah, that was a move.
Yep. That's absolutely spot on. You can see that that Long is 6 seconds already behind the leader there, Errol Erexoy here. You know. And this is what I was saying here. So it obviously gets that move done, but then runs very, very wide. And I've got no idea how he managed to get that position round the outside there.
So, I mean, to be fair, what it looked like Glenn Olsen actually had a slowdown. That would be my guess as to why the error, because it looked like they were just sort of, just drove on the outside going into out of the last corner. So I imagine it was because of that. We can actually see the gap now. There is the gap. So Errol Eriksoy leading the way, and we've got Glenn Olsen now sitting there. We may find this as well. So Glenn Olsen's going to do two things. Either Glenn Olsen is going to be trying to make that move back straight away, or there's going to be lifting coasting, and Olsen is just going to be lifting and sitting behind Eriksoy until, realistically, now the final stage of the race. That's really important. You've got to be thinking of the long game here. Errol's had a really good opportunity to save some fuel, which I believe he has done. And now, as it stands, it's now Olsen's turn if he is able to. Erik Klager and Rasmussen go through side by side. Oh, Rasmussen decides again, vetoes that move. He is not letting that by without a fight. And Erik Klager has to try once more. For a brief moment, though, that was a position gain for Klager. Actually, and then Rasmussen, actually, no, apologies. Rasmussen did make that move, and he made that move stick. So that was around the outside going into the Porsche. Very, very committed. So Klager defended. He could only defend so much. He was on the inside, just wasn't on the optimal line. So that was why the move was done relatively quickly through that. But again, good commitment from Rasmussen. Very, very good stuff indeed. And then we move down back to the AM categories. And we've got Michael Johns, Travis Kepler and Jason Bridges all in a nice little battle here for P6.
Yeah, and they're just so close to each other right now as well, as Bridges desperately harassing on the back of Travis Kepler right now is the 8th place car in class there. Great to see Jason Bridges doing such a good job trying to really harass. But then look at Travis Kepler, look at the run that he gets through the Porsche curves, through the final couple of runs through towards the final chicanes here. And then he drops back again to Bridges. So it's that whole thing I was saying there of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And some big damage to the front of that car there. The bonnet is no more, and the front is looking rather, I'd say, second hand there.
But it's certainly seen better days, isn't it, to be perfectly honest?
It's not the best. Oh, by the way, would you like a laugh there, Dan? Would you like something to cheer up your early morning? James Pearce, who went to pit lane and just stopped the car and left, had to go. He's got class.
Oh. Well, there we go.
So,
I mean,
as you do.
Kudos for the commitment of actually turning up, even though you're only able to do the first lap of the race. That shows commitment to the series, because any practice is good practice. And the fact that you're turning up simply to run a couple of laps and then you have to go to class, fair play. Fair play. Because a lot of people probably just go, oh, no, I missed this round. Oh, do you know what?
I feel like I'm just skipping class.
Well, I don't.
And this is why I'm doing commentating, Dan.
You hooligan.
I know, this is why I'm speaking behind a microphone.
Is that what you contributed to, you reckon?
That's where it all went wrong, really.
Actually, we just came away from that battle, but let's go back up to the battle here, because Errol Eriksoy and Andrew Houston makes it up the inside of Errol Eriksoy, and that is the move done and dusted. Do you know what? Errol did not fight that at all, and I've been speaking to him a few times before. I've done a little bit of coaching with him, and it was almost like, we really worked on this as well for long. It's just, you do not have to fight too aggressively here. Last lap, absolutely, it all changes. You've got to push that car as hard as you can go. This sort of stage of the race, no, not worth it. So we worked really, really hard on that. So Errol Eriksoy playing the long game, doing a really, really stellar job there. Michael Klager, Andrew Rasmussen back at it again. So Klager trying to get that position back this time as they come down into the run into Indianapolis. Very, very tricky. It's a flat out. It's not a straight by any stretch of the imagination, but it is flat out up until around the 100-meter board. And then you break all the way down, and we see Klager now making that move back on Rasmussen. And then a little bit further. Oh no! Who's that gone off? That was Klager.
Yeah, that was Klager. And also, what a blooming run by Steven Martinez. Chris Long was starting to gap it. He was about 4 seconds ahead, and Steven Martinez has just charged him down and is now right on his tail as well.
Indeed, yes, absolutely true. It's very, very good. Did Kaloga just get a little bit too aggressive on the brakes and push that car into a lockup? Oh, that's such a shame, especially, I mean, well, look at that. Doesn't help the situation because I think it just looked like, because Kalaga was on the outside, it wasn't on the optimal line. I think going in, it just looked, his car didn't look 100% stable. So couple that with that small brake lock. Did well to keep out the barrier though. That's a positive thing. We can work with that. That's certainly positive. So it is not over yet by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that unfortunately there is a little bit of work to do now for Michael Kalaga. But he's only on the back of, there is Michael Kalaga, only on the back, about half 4 tenths now, half second, 4 tenths off of Jay Steffi. So that might be a position that we'll be getting relatively quickly. He's going to want to try and get past Steffi quickly and then push on to Eric Kalaga as well up into P6. Glenn Olsen still trying to pressure the back of Uriksoy as it stands. And I'll tell you what, what's happened there? Kalaga has passed Metzger, but I don't really know where. Well, it was into the 4 chicanes, I know that, but I don't really understand why. Did Metzger go a little bit wide, possibly perhaps, or did we find that Metzger went into the pits? Let us have a look. No, a slowdown for AC Metzger. That will be the... that won't be the last slowdown we see today. That will not be the last slowdown we see today. So that will be why. That was pretty much a freebie there from... freebie there, in terms of a position gain. What you'd like to see. Well, certainly from one party, more so than the other. Racing back and forth, have a look at the Pro-Am. So we are seeing here, what I am seeing is, I believe, James Pearce has already pitted. So James Pearce has come into the pits already. Now that is very, very early.
He's out of the race. James Pearce was the car that we saw stopping at the one in
yes.
the lane. So he still shows us in the race, but he's now 4 laps down, so that'll just increase.
Absolutely, that would be why. It's good that we've got someone here who is actually paying attention to what is going on.
Not for too much longer. The rate this is going, goodness me, I'm going to pass out with all this excitement. Have you ever seen this though in any other series where you've got the top 4 cars just running and they're not fighting, they're not like throwing it down the inside, they're not doing any stupid crazy moves. It's all just like, right, let's just keep going, let's just get in a train and keep pushing on. Honestly, this is what it was like in the EU race. It's great to see it in the US stuff as well. I don't know, maybe it's this community, maybe it's this league, but I've certainly never seen this before in my life.
It's very, very unique, is this series here. And I've been broadcasting as well the GT3 leagues that are hosted and sponsored again, Race Anywhere, Sim3D and Go for the Gap. And you know, it's just a really, really good bunch of people. It's a well-organised event, and you can tell it's well-organised because, yeah, we've got some amazing battling that's just going on. And, you know, everyone is just pushing where they need to be. We were talking about this earlier on. There's always going to be accidents. You're never going to get away from it. It's simply motorsport. You can never, ever, ever remove yourself away from accidents because they do happen. What you need to do, though, is you need to make sure that you're managing it in the correct way. And this is what... these guys do, and it's just a very, very good community atmosphere. Everyone's understanding of one another, everyone leaves each other space, everyone leaves each other room, and it's just good, fun, clean racing. Metzger gets past Eric Kalaga. That's position going down into Indianapolis. Eric Kalaga drops a position, unfortunately. Michael Kalaga still hasn't got past Jay Steffi, although the gap is now starting to come down again, back to less than a second. Thomas Marino and Justin Ream both coming now into the pit lane for their first pit stops. That has released. This is Harry Wills and John Butifer as well. So both drivers now being released. Dan Menino has not pitted yet, but he's still continuing to move forward. Ryan Kaprowski again, and again, yet to pit, along with Wilson Brewer. So a couple of people still that have not pitted. It's about half and half now in terms of the pro field as it stands. So we will see how that develops moving forward. Little bit aggressive there. I tell you what's happened though. Uriksoy has dropped down the order a little bit. Not 100% sure why. the gap. So Houston has pulled around about 1.5 second gap now on Urixoy and then Olsen. So this is now starting to get a little bit treacherous, almost in a way for Urixoy, because he won't be getting a tow. Who does come into the pit lane? Pretty much everyone comes into the pit lane on the same lap in terms of the AM categories. Houston, Urixoy, Olsen, does Vardia come into the pits as well? Yes. I wonder if we may see Gary Brown also as well coming into the pit lane. Yes. So all of the AM category drivers now coming into the pits. So the racing still continuing even in the pit lane, and we're going to see, depending on how many people or how much fuel has been saved, we may see a couple of changes on exit here.
Yeah, for sure. And the pit stop strategy is so important as Bootfear takes the provisional lead of the race, and Harry Wills in that second place there. The thing is that this is what we saw in the EU race as well. Drivers coming in for the first set of pit stops here, Dan, and then after their second one, that's when the kind of like the friendliness dropped out of it. It was then every man for himself, as you see Bootfear going very wide out the second chicane there, and trying to drop the code here from Harry Wills. And again, it's just a case of just trying to knuckle down, get the laps in, and just keep track position for that final 25 minutes of the race.
Yes, absolutely. Very true indeed. So Harry Wills is going to be trying to... Bootfear is actually, I believe the toe is almost... It hasn't been broken fully, but it's 1.2 seconds, so it's pretty much there or thereabouts. You can see the time come down. Again, if you look at the top left-hand corner of your screen, you can see the interval is dropped down to under a second once again. But we'll do as we come down into, albeit for a few moments, there is a battle box that now appears. That will trigger when there is a gap less than a second. But it is having an effect still, but it's not as much naturally if it was 7/10 or half a second behind. We will also see Harry Wills try to... Well, he's obviously going to try and catch up. We're going to see Bootfear trying to maintain that position. Crucially, though, both of these drivers have got an additional lap on the remainder of the Pro-Am field. And what happens is they'll get this one lap done. It won't make any difference whatsoever. It's the next lap that makes a difference. It's the next pit stop, the next pit strategy. Because if they can do that, and they can make that additional lap go for the next round, that's going to be then 2 laps that have been saved. Now, 2 laps is making that's a big difference. That is a big difference here. So the order that you see now, when they come out of the pits, that will not be the same order, I can almost guarantee you. Chris Long passed Stephen Martinez. That is Chris Long now up into P2. But again, the problem now lies with the aero damage on Chris Long's car. So Stephen Martinez just gets that move straight back. Chris Long has got some amazing pace, arguably. Looking at the car here, Chris Long has got some pace for, challenging for a win here, to be fair. Providing his car, I think the car's just got too much damage. At another track, probably wouldn't make too much difference. But somewhere like here, you've got to be on maximum attack all of the time in terms of pace. You need that speed. You need the straight line speed here.
Yeah, you absolutely do. For me, it's Martinez, though, that I've got my eye on, just purely the fact that he was able to close down that gap there too long and get that job done, get that second place. So important for because these results aren't for points. These results decide the starting order for our first race of the season next week at Hockenheimring. So really important. As that's not great for Metgar. Really easy to do, I've got to be honest. I'm really struggled to drive this circuit, and Arnage and Indianapolis are 2 of my least favourite corners on the track because it's so easy to do, especially when nighttime falls here. But pit stops have come and gone, and I've got to be honest, it looks like Marino and Justin Rehm starting to get a little bit closer to each other now, and I'd be interested to see how this one pans out here.
You can see, yes, absolutely very true. So, yeah, Marino has come out. Obviously, everyone is now pissed. Everyone's now come out. The gap to Marino is extended. So, it's now 1.6 seconds. Justin Rehm in P2, 1.6 behind. And you can just see as well, Bootfear. There is Bootfear, and then Harry Wills not too far behind. The gaps have opened up, certainly. Are they going to stay like that? It's tricky to say. I mean, if anything, Marino is outside of the tow, outside of the drafting window from Ream. So what may happen here is you may see Ream pull forward, although Butifa, what we should actually see here is we should see Butifa almost push Ream along. Obviously not actually push along, because that would certainly not end well. But what it does mean is we are wanting to I thought it was going to be possibly as well. They are teammates though for the Geodesic Racing teams, number 67 and number 88. I wonder possibly though, are we going to see maybe they're going to actually I tell you what they're going to try and do. They're going to try and leapfrog each other, aren't they? They're going to try and leapfrog each other along. Harry Wills is being tagged along on the back there as well, because the gap was about 1.2 seconds. It's now 0.8 seconds, 0.7 seconds even. I wonder if that's what they're doing. They're going to try and leapfrog each other to try and catch up. It would make sense, and providing it certainly would work. The gap has already come down about a tenth and a half. This may be a good strategy for the Geodesic Racing boys.
It's definitely worth a shout, and it's certainly some proper 3000 IQ thinking going on right now between these two to just really tow each other along. What they've got to watch out for though is Harry Wills in that background. Is he going to play along with this little party trick that they've got going on? Because they're wanting to do it for them, but Wills might be in the position then to make a mess of that, really.
Yeah, well, I think what's the old saying? Keep your friends close, your enemies closer in a way. Obviously, that expression, in terms of enemies, but Harry Wills will know exactly what to do here. He'll be playing along 100%. There's no point at this stage of the race to push harder than you need to. Although Marino has extended that gap to 2.4 seconds even, so I'm not entirely sure what has happened there. Maybe the tactic is working, but it needs to work in certain areas. So Marino is pulling away. It's not over yet though, because Marino is going to have to push the car at this point. He is driving that car, I would imagine, flat out. Okay, like really, really flat out. He's driving that car aggressively. What is going to happen here is if Butifa and Ream and also Harry Wills are able to all maintain some pace and maintain a good amount of fuel saving, what's going to happen is we are going to see around about a 5-second gain if Marino can't provide an extra lap's worth of fuel, if he isn't saving. So maybe Marino's decided that his tactic is to simply drive as fast as he possibly can, just to try and get the head and try and get a jump.
It could very well be. There's so many ifs and buts and maybes involved in this next 45 minutes left, as we see Stephen Martinez and Chris Long still going for it, and seen that so many times from other cars. Stephen Martinez just locks up the brake, too much heat going into that corner. You know what that corner really reminds me of? At Snetterton, coming through Coram down in towards Murray's, where the car is still turning right and you've got to go into the brakes, and we see that so often, whereas the car just locks up and goes off in a straight line. This is Michael Johns. That's not quite how you do the first chicane, thankfully, avoiding the wall on the outside there, but that could have been so much worse.
It could have. You're absolutely true. Yeah, luckily it was not. You are indeed correct. It was a very, very good save. I mean, the save that you do there is pretty much exactly what happened. You go through. If you feel the car starting to slide, it's the Agile trick. You just hammer the brakes as hard as you can. Let the car, you want to lock all four wheels up. As soon as you lock the wheels up, you then won't be rotating anymore, you won't be spinning. What's going to happen is you're actually going to then continue to carry on in that direction that you were before you hit the brakes. So you can use it to predict where you're going as well, and you can, in a way as well, tactfully utilise it to minimise any damage if you do have a spin. But yeah, arguably in that case though, Michael Johnson did exactly what he needed to do. Car rotated, he held the brakes at the right time, and then let off when he stopped. He did not try and let off, did not argue what would have happened. If he just tried to let off, he probably would have spun maybe into another oncoming car. So certainly very, very well handled there by Michael Johns. Further up and down the field we go. One of the battles in the AM category is still once again Uruksoy versus Olsen, although Olsen may have a position on here. I believe so, yes, because Uruksoy went a little bit deep going into turn 2, and that has now cost him. It's cost him in one sense, track position, cost him in another sense because he will also now be able to save a bit more fuel. This is where it's going to make a difference. The second round of pit stops is where it's going to make all of the difference here. Nearly halfway has gone, though, in this race. In fact, you know what? I think the halfway point has already gone, David. This is absolutely, you are right, this has flown by.
And it's just so enjoyable. It really, really is. And you lose track of time because obviously, you know, it's that awkward moment where it's between an hour and it's like between an hour and a half. It's an hour and 15, so your brain just doesn't register where the halfway point is, which is literally just gone by now. And yeah, look, it's really opened up quite well. However, I'm going to say right now, Boutefleur is catching up quite quickly on Thomas Mourinho for that first place. The gap now down to 1.1 seconds. We got a fight on our hands very soon.
We have indeed, absolutely. I'm keeping my eye out for Harry Wills, as he is only half a second behind. Oh, a little bit wide there for Justin Ream. That would have cost him probably maybe about half a tenth. Imagine how much time that doesn't cost you through there. It is a gravel trap. It just doesn't necessarily behave like one. Yeah, so minimal time lost there for Justin Ream. Everyone now goes through down into the Porsche curves one more time. The gap between Ream and Marino just dips under a second for the first time in a few laps. Justin Ream tries to go on the outside. This is where the gap starts to open up again a little bit because you've then got some dirty air that's causing a bit of error wash. Error wash obviously disrupts the airflow of the car itself. You then get less downforce, and it just doesn't work in the way that you want it to. So that's why we will possibly see that time drop off. You can just see it there as well. You just see on the left-hand side, top left, it extended a little bit in terms of that time. So that is simply the dirty air just washing over the front of Boutefleur's car, and that will certainly, and Ream's car, that will be costing them. That is the reason as to why. As we come down...
So I was just about to say, Dan, just noticing Casey Metzger has had another huge moment further down there, currently running 8th in the Pro-Ams right now. We'll get and see what happens here. It's the same corner into Indianapolis, and yeah, it's, at what point? Oh, and yeah, that's not going to help either. I wonder how his brakes are handling at this moment.
Well, I mean, what's happening? The brakes are pretty sturdy in this car within iRacing, so you probably you'll be able to get away with them. Other sims such as ACC, they will model brake fade. iRacing is certainly doesn't look at brake fade to my knowledge. Anyway, I'm sure they may well be a drop off, but I'm not 100% sure on that. The likes of ACC though, yeah, they monitor really aggressive brake fade. They also monitor an ACC simulates tyre graining or tyre graining really well, and also flat spotting. Again, iRacing doesn't do that, so you've got a little bit more freedom, a little bit more flexibility when it comes to iRacing in that sort of perspective. Down to the Anfield though, there's a bit of a battle. Actually, no, there's not a battle brewing. I thought it was a battle, but it's Jay Steffi in the Pro-Am category versus Andrew Hewson in the Am category.
And doing a mighty good job is Andrew Hewson right now of trying to really harass that car in front of him of Jay Steffi. So yeah, he's going to be very happy. Andrew Rasmussen has had a huge moment at the Dunlop curves there. You can see him just coming back into picture there. Must have run wide at the Dunlop curves there. But meanwhile, Andrew Hewson here in that number 40 for the AM class. Again, this is what I was saying, Dan. There's nothing AM about these drivers. They are absolutely on it right now.
Certainly are. Very true indeed. Back up at the front, we've got more battling between Boutefleur and Wills now. Who is going to come on top? Justin Ream has had a bit of a moment. What has happened to Justin Ream?
I wonder if it's fuel. I wonder if Ream's decided to drop back a little bit here. We'll get an idea anyway. We're going side by side. Please tell me it's... is it a slowdown? Is it a slowdown then for Ream? Because he slows all the way down to let his teammate through. Goes in. And yeah, I can't see anything that jumps out to me. Can you, Dan?
No, I can't actually. That's very strange. I'm really not sure as to why that would be showing as is. I mean, either way, the facts are there. Certainly something that has happened. It's just not 100% sure whereabouts. Andrew Rasmussen has had a moment going down through this. Is coming into turn 2. Oh, big lock-up there. That's a hefty lock-up. And then just goes, a half spin for good measure. Manages to, brushes the tyre barrier, which will be costing, that won't give you any damage at all, to be fair. So Rasmussen, very lucky to get away with that, to be perfectly honest. But he continues to move on. Then I'm noticing as well, there's a couple of different drivers. You can see Rasmussen, Kalaga, Metzger getting involved with the AM category a little bit in terms of their positioning. Very easy to do. It's just not only then have you got to now worry about it's arguably it makes things more difficult for you. Because not only have you got to worry about what's going on in your class, you've got to then worry about what's going on with other people's class as well, and you don't really want to get involved in any battles that they're running in. It's a bit easier, a bit harder to manage on shorter circuits. Something like Le Mans, it's not too bad. But it can be a little bit more tricky to manage. Le Mans is just so long, it's so wide, it's so big in a lot of places now. If there are two battles happening, you can realistically get running out, you can pass them in a much more easier format. Whoa! What on earth? Oh my word, did you just see that, David?
Well, that's a change of underwear required for John Boutefeur there. I think it's safe to say that that was unbelievable there. But that now means that they're still dropping off the back of Thomas Mourinho. That gap now 2.5 seconds. And coming into this final pit stop here, Dan, this is not the sort of gap that you want to have opening up. In fact, where the EU race was almost nose to tail, in this one, it's starting to open up quite nicely for a lot of the drivers.
It certainly is. You're very true. It's opening up for certain drivers, which is helping certain drivers, not necessarily helping others. That is Justin Reams sending it around the outside of Harry Wills. Did Harry Wills defend it? No, he did not. Should he have defended it? Not at all, I don't personally think. Harry Wills now sets back in to P3, but now tables have turned, and we're going to see Harry Wills saving that little bit more fuel before the next round of pit stops. Not too long though, and then we will have only 25 minutes remaining, so not too long at all. Only about 4, maybe 5 laps to go here at Le Mans, and that will be 75 minutes all done and dusted and over with. Down a little bit further for the board. Let's just do a quick run through. We'll bring up in a few moments the class displays, just so you who's where. And as it stands at the moment, there we go. So we do have Thomas Marino leading the pro category still, in the pro am category. We have Jeremy Littleton, who we have seen pretty much none of for this entire race. And you know what? I don't think he's really going to care much. And then finally, in the am field, we have Glenn Olsen being pressured very heavily from the back of Errol Uritzor, who's still getting involved and showing his nose, and he wants that position sooner rather than later. Having a quick look where P3 is though. So Stephen Vaggia in P3 in the AM category, P16 overall. Now I'm just having a quick look. It's around about, or probably, I'd say a good 9 seconds back. I mean, that's a tough order to try and make that time up. Not impossible though, by any stretch of the imagination, because they simply don't know what's going to happen, and anything can happen. It just seems to be I struggle to believe that.
Stranger things have happened though, that's the thing. What really impresses me though, to be honest with you, Dan, is the fact that these top two AM drivers, Olsen and Urexoy, are almost on to get a podium in the Pro-Ams. That's the sort of pace that they've got right now. So amazing effort right now, and just fantastic to watch all of this play out here. So I'm so curious to see what's going to happen in these final 25 minutes.
Oh, sorry, I am back. There's microphone issues there. As you were saying, stranger things have happened. You are absolutely correct. Stranger things certainly have happened. We've been on commentary for most of those, I think, to be fair, David. Yeah, we are coming into the second half of the race now. Arguably, the final third and the closing phases. Once the timer hits the hour, that's with 15 minutes left to go. That's when it will start getting a little bit more dicey. That's when people will start taking maybe a little bit more risks. But arguably, as long as it's all controlled and everything, it's not the end of the world. We were seeing some really, really incredible sends again in the EU category. We've seen some really, really good sends as well, and braking moves coming into some, especially some of these slower speed corners. It's certainly something to keep an eye out for. That, like I said, these gaps, these places, these positions won't be staying as they are. I can almost guarantee. As it turns out at the moment, Dave Menino goes in for his second pit stop, so one of the early adopters for pit stop number 2. I don't think that's because he's got any damage. And we'll have to see how long he is in the pit lane for. Am category seems to be a little bit quiet apart from this battle here, to be fair. Similar story with the Pro Am field. One of the battles to keep an eye out for. In fact, no. Let's ignore that. Rasmussen is running, well, you've got half a second in front to Eric Uritzoi, but that isn't going to make a difference now because Rasmussen comes now into the pit lane and the number everyone comes in for his second time pit stop. Pitting really early that I've noticed, like really. Will we ever? I don't know. I can't remember for the life of me if I was pitting in that late or pitting in that early from the E-race a couple of hours ago. I wonder, like you were saying, Dave, this track makes you feel like you're driving for simply so long. But, well, it doesn't actually. It makes you think you're driving for really, really quickly, and you're just blasting through the laps. Time really does fly when driving this track, I think.
You're absolutely spot on there, Dan. It's that whole saying of time flies when you're having fun. I think that is certainly what these drivers are doing tonight in these Porsche 992 Cup cars. The wonderful, wonderful Porsche Cup cars. Stephen Vida here for Team Premax here, trying to catch onto the back there of it's a Rexoid that he is hunting down. It's not really going to happen. Those 7 seconds that he's got behind him. But I'm still watching that battle there between Olsen and Rexoid there. I honestly think Rexoid might be able to retake this battle right now, but I think that's about the only leads of a class that we're going to see change here, because this battle between Wills and Boutfur and Rain as well is just absolutely crazy right now.
Indeed it is. This is one of the closer battles as it stands for the series at the moment and for this particular race. Harry Wills versus Justin Ream, who is going to be, that's a last minute push for Harry Wills. He's going to try and go on the inside going into the Porsche curves. Last late breakers, it is Harry Wills. Very, very good move indeed. Just taps a wheel on the grass for good measure. I wonder if that was done tactically to get a bit more rotation in the car. Very, very brave if so, especially when you're slightly off of the racing line. So Harry Wills now inherits P2. Thomas Marino is now 3.1 seconds clear of Harry Wills, who is now in P2. We may see that time start to come down. Again, I would try and play the long game here. Try and get that position back in the sprint race. In the on the strategy. Sprint on the strategy. You can get it right on the strategy. There's certainly a possibility for a win here.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It's certainly not all over. We've seen a lot of time being taken out in pit stops. Certainly in the first race earlier on tonight, we saw gaps of like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds being wiped out by erroneous pit stops. The other thing to remember in these final pit stops is, the tanks are blocked at 50%. So for that first stop, they've got to take a full tank of fuel. This last one, they don't. They can guess now. And they don't have to brim the tank or take as much as they're allowed to take. So we could see A, a lot of pace coming out after the pit stops here, and B, drivers trying to maybe cheat a couple of seconds off the pit stops because they don't have to take tyres either. It's only fuel that they're required to.
Very true. Yes, only fuel is required for these pit stops. The pit stops themselves are mandatory for the endurance event. The sprint format's a little bit different, but that will all be released to everyone as and when tomorrow. Yeah, so if you can do an extra lap, especially here now in these current conditions, with what's going, I reckon you'll be able to fill probably. I don't know. Actually, it's quite tricky to say, but you'll be saving a good 3.5 to 4 seconds, I reckon, from the time you enter and you exit.
And that
it's a pretty hefty chunk of time that you can save.
Yeah, it really is, Dan, and that is massive when it comes to terms of gaining position on track there. I mean, obviously we're seeing Thomas Mourinho gaining a little bit of time there, getting himself further up, but Harry Will's doing a really, really good job of trying to hold on to that position from the likes of Justin Rain, from the likes of John Boutefeur. So this Pro-Am battle still has so much life left in it. Looking down to the Pro-Am battle, Jeremy Littleton did a fantastic job. I mean, that's 13 seconds now that he's opened up. In fact, has something happened to Chris Long there? Because that gap is going up and up and up and up and up, but it could just be a poor exit out of a corner for whatever reason it is. Because now there is Steve Martinez trying to catch back up to him as well. So, Dan, the topic of conversation now with 20 minutes left to go has to turn to our final batch of pit stops, and we're already very late, I think, for them. I think probably about 5 minutes ago would have been a good time to take them. For you, how did your car feel after the second pit stop?
Felt fine, to be honest. The tyres are not needed. New tyres aren't needed. There just isn't enough. The tyre compounds in iRacing are very, very strange. So you can really lean onto the tyre pressures. Onto the tyres quite aggressively. As long as you do it in a smooth way, and you don't sort of like push loads of steering lock on just to get the car to rotate, etc., etc., etc. You have a very, very good understanding, a very good base of how much you can push the tyres. Now, as a general rule, I would probably imagine that these cars could do maybe 2.5 to 3 stints on the same set of time. Regardless what that car is, it's more of a technique thing. So, yeah, it's just something to bear in mind. I'm just so intrigued. Oh, who has that come in the pit? That is... Who was that? That was Tom.
That was Harry Wills. And Harry Wills as well from that little 2-car battle.
Okay, so Harry Wills will not be saving any fuel. He's not saved, obviously, any fuel because he has now had to come into hospital. Has done is really, really well. Is it's played right into the hands of John Boutefeur and Justin Ream, because that battle has well, I mean, if anything, there's no sort of like big aggressive moves being played at the moment. There's no really, really hyper aggressive lunges that are happening. They're simply working together. Come the end of the race, or nearing the end of the race, I should say. I certainly don't know how that's going to be. I can imagine that's going to be a different story. Sure. Yeah, but Justin Ream might have to
I'm just watching them down here, Dan, and what they need to do is they need to start bump drafting. That's exactly what they need to do. Harry Wills needs to get into the toe of that car. None of this... I don't understand it. It doesn't look like they're working together. It looks like Ream is feeling a bit twitchy from Wills behind him. It looks like Ream wants to get that position. Whereas if they just work together, if they just stay in the toe, and the other thing they've got to watch out for as well is cooling, making sure that the engine gets as much air through it as it possibly needs. But this doesn't look like the two of them are really pushing as hard as they could collectively. Instead, it feels like Harry Wills maybe just trying to line up Ream for the move.
He might very well be, or again, it might just be the calm before the storm. Are we going to see? Well, what we might see here is coming out of the pit lane, I mean, in theory, what should happen and what should be happening now is Justin Ream should actually be saving more fuel. Justin Ream should get out ahead of Butifer, providing that the time and the pace is, providing the time which you come into the pits, how much, how aggressively you put on the tyres, things like that.
Yeah.
We just need to.
No, you're absolutely spot on with that, and obviously I was getting mixed up there because it's Bootfur and Ream who are at the front here. Wills is busy after the pit stop with Mourinho, but have a look at that. Has Wills jumped Mourinho in the pits? Am I saying thing? That's a huge upset there, because now that means if Wills can jump him, these two have definitely got a chance if they play their cards right here. You said it earlier on, 1 extra lap of fuel on your second pit stop is absolutely huge. So the two of them, I'm stunned at this. This could be the entire race lead turned on its absolute head.
It's certainly a possibility. Absolutely right. Meanwhile, Marino goes to the inside of Harry Wills. Harry Wills is forced to go on the outside down into Indianapolis. Who is going to break latest? It is... Actually, for a moment, I thought it was going to be... No, there we go. So, Marino now pulls over to the normal racing line. I mean, Harry Wills, I'd imagine, would have wanted to have held Marino off a little bit longer. Although, again, the best, bit of a tricky one. That I think that move was going to happen, possibly, or at least an attempt at the move was going to happen sooner rather than later. So Marino, we know he's got pace. I mean, qualified pole in the challenge. So that's also something to. Again, there's what I like about Le Mans. Just sort of touching on the strategy here as well. Is we simply don't know. There's less than 15 minutes to go, and we don't really have an idea as to what is going to happen. It's not too far away, though, because Justin Ream is now in the pit lane. Butifer has gone another lap. Wow, that is impressive. That's very, very impressive.
That really is. I don't understand how he's still got the fuel for it, though. I mean, that is... that is something else right now, and you're just seeing Harry Wills there getting all out of shape on the entry into the final couple of chicanes there. What do we think about Butifer then? But look at that gap come down. That gap. Oh no, he is. Butifer is surely at the pits, or has something happened then? Where is Butifer? He's run out of fuel. Has he?
He's not.
No, he's not. Do you know what it was? Was the timing jumped down from like 37 seconds all the way down to 17, and it was like, what on earth happened there? But it's not. It was just a little glitch in the timing. So I will calm down, recalibrate myself. But the question remains then, Dan, what do we think he can do then? Because that gap hasn't come down considerably. Butifer obviously feels like he's got enough petrol to get to the end of the lap on full chat of the engine. Could this be a race-winning move right here?
I mean, if Butifer can pull this off, yes, it will be. Do you know the reason why? It's purely because there is an extra 2 laps worth of fuel, or 2 laps less worth of fuel that needs to be taken on board. An average amount of fuel that you take on board is about 7 litres, say, give or take. That's 14 litres of additional fuel saving that is going to be going through Butifer's mind. 14 litres. It's about 4.5 to 5 seconds.
And that's exactly where Ream has come out, because Justin Ream obviously hasn't had that calculation done properly, because he's ended up coming out 8.5 seconds behind that fight now. So, I mean, we've got 10 minutes left to go. Ultimately, Butifer surely is going to have to be in at the end of this lap. Do we think he can get the jump on Marino? I mean,
I reckon so.
Wow, that's an amazing strategy turn. I mean, can you imagine if it comes down to the final 2 minutes and we've got a 3-way fight for the lead?
Well, I mean, realistically, most of the tracks it wouldn't make too much of a difference. Let's just make that perfect. Let's make that perfectly clear. Most tracks it wouldn't make that much of a difference. Because it's Le Mans and fuel saving is such a key element here. It really, really does make a difference. It absolutely does. So yeah, once Boutiford comes into the pits, which we will absolutely, I can imagine, I've always put money on it coming in this lap, then we'll be able to crack on and see once everyone is pretty much. And do you know what? I'm having a look through. That is, I think there's a few other people as well, but I think Boutiford is like one of two people that still has not pitted for the second pit stop. So again, mighty impressive stint there for the number 67 driver. A little bit further down in the leading the Pro-Am category with a gap of 13.02 seconds. You can just see in the back, just about to go out of shot now, was Chris Long. But Jeremy Littleton pushing forward and making moves very, very quickly indeed. Yeah, I mean, the 13.2 second gap, you can't really argue with that, can you? It sets a good precedence for him for the remainder of the season.
I don't think you're going to be complaining about that on the pre-qualifying event for sure for the number 31 of Jeremy Littleton. Let's not forget 15 places he's gained since the start of this race. Amazing effort from Jeremy Littleton there. Also, Stephen Vida, 23 positions he's gained overall, getting up to P13 and third place in the AM category. So, yeah, like that is amazing. And Boutiford now in the pit lane here.
You're absolutely correct. Boutiford is now in the pit lane. The question is, where is Marino? There is Marino, and you know what? Boutiford's out. He's out on the pit exit. It's going to be close. It's going to be very close. And you know what? I think Marino's going to Marino, yeah. Look at that. Boutiford got the jump. It's going to be about a second, and this is where Marino needs to capitalise on his opportunity now because he's got fresh tyres. Not fresh tyres, but he's got tyres that are in a much, much better condition because they're warmer.
And do you know what? A huge upset there as well. I just caught that out of the corner of my eye. I don't know if you saw that, Dan, but when we looked at Marino coming through, Harry Wills actually spun it out of the final corner.
I did see some of that. This is the first issue, I think, with Harry Wills. It's going to be a little bit of a half spin. Yeah, a little bit of a, not half spin, but a little bit wide there. Now, this is where it goes a little bit Pete Tong. It's a bit too fast, just a little bit too fast into the Porsche curves. I mean, that's how you save it from there. And again, just gets on the throttle. We were actually joking about this earlier on. Is the suspension, the standard sort of suspension geometry settings in this car, regardless how much you change them, it just feels like a bit of a pogo stick. If you try and push the car over corners, it just doesn't want to go over. It's sort of like hops and skips. Steven Martinez, is that an off track? Yep, Steven Martinez gets an off track there. Yeah, it just hops and skips about. It, which was the cause there. That was the problem that happened there. Simply what happened is as the car went over the curb, it's obviously then sort of bouncing and it's skipping as it's compressing, relaxing, compressing, relaxing. Then as you get on the throttle, it just pushes the car around. Yes.
What's happened to Marino? Marino's 35 seconds back.
That, I believe...
Is that the timing? It's the timing, right. Sorry. Again,
I don't understand.
That absolutely freaks me out. I'm seeing that and I'm like, Wills is right on the tail end of him there, but it's not. Thankfully, it's not. It's just me. It's okay. I can deal with having a little heart attack every now and again. But yeah, on that note, though, Marino is closing quite rapidly. But anyway, yeah, you were saying about like Olsen and the AM category. I think this is done dusted. I think all of the other categories, apart from Pro-Am, I think they're finished.
Possibly so, but again, we really don't know until the checkered flag has dropped. We simply do not know. But yes, as it's saying, Glenn Olsen has the position on Errol Uriksoy in P2, and then following from Stephen Varga in P3. Around about 5 seconds apiece separate the top three. Let's have a look, because Chris Long has passed Stephen Martinez. Let's have a quick look at that battle. I want to say what Stephen Martinez has actually just repassed Chris Long. Chris Long is an absolute... He just sends it everywhere and anywhere, but it's clean at the same time. I just don't get it. How is it that clean?
Measured, isn't it? He's just seeing what needs to be done and just putting the car absolutely where it needs to be. Great move, left, right, centre. But I mean, to be fair, when they're making moves on the straight like this, you know that it's going to be short lived because when it comes out of this first chicane here, they're going to be straight onto the second half of the Mulsanne Straight. And then, of course, that car behind Martinez is just going to be like, right, well, and there we go. Chris Long back in front of Steven Martinez.
It's going to be leapfrogging now for the remainder of this race. Around about 2 laps to go here. Should be 2 laps to go, I believe. Have to wait and see. It depends when Boutifer crosses the line. So there is Boutifer now coming around. Yes, this lap plus 1 more. Actually, do you know what? It might be a little bit close. No, it is going to be, 2 more laps. 2 more. Whoa, a bit too aggressive over the curbs there for Boutifer. That's allowed Marino to really catch up. And that's cost. The Marino, I think, didn't really capitalise on that, I don't think, at all. Or tried to capitalise on it, but may have just got on the throttle maybe a little bit too aggressively and certainly didn't gain as much time there. Sends it round turn 1, though. Wow, that is brave. And Marino then catches up another 1/10 of a second. This is really, really kicking off. So Boutifer is in a position where, I mean, realistically, it's either going to be P1 or P2. If you settle for P2, I think that's not going to be a problem if you settle for P2. I really, really don't think it is. Because it's been a fantastic drive, arguably from both drivers. So at the moment, Boutifer has gained 1 position, Marino has lost a position. So, but again, ultimately, I think that there's just there's a really, really good opportunity here for both drivers to have a nice, clean final couple of laps. If they can do what they were doing from the start of the race, I mean, we're in for an absolute treat for these final couple of laps to just about to go. We've actually got another little bit of battle here. Justin Reed and Harry Wills, they're going to go side by side, possibly. Who's got the run coming down? Can't quite see where this is. This is coming down into the Mulsanne Corner Complex. It's not actually. I'm telling an absolute complete lie. It's coming down into the first chicane. And that is Justin Ream overtaking Harry Wills. A couple of replays coming up for you as well. Andrew Hewson, one of them, having a small off track. Oh, that's a bit of a moment. Wow. Fair play. Andrew Hewson managed to save that. As we now go back to live cameras because the move is just about to be done. This is Marino goes up the inside of Joe Boutifer. That is the position gained. And now Marino retakes the lead as it stands. What Boutifer needs to do now is just sit behind and patiently wait. It's going to feel like an absolute eternity. You have to make sure that you wait. It's the key thing. And then another the replay coming up for you here as well is Vargia. Stephen Vargia going a little bit wide for Team Promats. Nothing really major there, to be fair, but something to make note of anyway. And then, whoa, Travis Kepler. That's a bit of a, tries to do a reverse entry. Didn't quite work going into turn 6, I believe that is. Just after the Dunlop bridge. Not ideal. That's not going to be doing the tyres any favours. No, they don't flat spot, but they do get hot.
5.5 for style points, I think. There is a boot for is all over the back of Mourinho, tucks to the inside there. It's going to be battle of the late breakers there. Things better of it, and you were saying about he just needs to sit back and be patient. I disagree. I think he just needs to send it at every opportunity. Or maybe that's the David Christie school of driving. And look at how wide Mourinho is. I keep saying Mourinho, it's Marino. Out of that corner there, power slides there, and this is Boutifer now right on the tail of this. This is. I just have a really bad feeling this is going to end in tears for these two.
Might do. They're going to go possibly side by side. Let's hopefully it doesn't. But we'll have to see. Boutifer has got a little. I thought there was going to be a move there. I thought Boutifer was going to give it a go, but no, it was not to be this time around. So Marino still manages to lead as it stands for the moment. No, there's a couple of other battles that are sizzling on. This is going to be the final lap here. One more lap to go. This is going to be, patient up until this point. I'm sure there are going to be sends here. I would almost put money on it as they come through for the final time. And tell you what, they're beautiful. Got a better run going through the final corner. You can see it already on the Delta. It's come down 1.5. It's come down almost 2/10 by the time we get down into turn 2 and 3. What can Boutifer do? Is there going to be anything that Boutifer can do? That is the other question. Is there going to be an answer to Marino's pace at the moment? He's giving it a good go though, isn't he? The number 67 Alpine Stars geodesic racing car is giving it absolutely everything to try and get past the number 77. My best guess in terms of when the position would be made, and you know what I would do? I would always try and make either going to Indianapolis or going into Porsche curves. If you stay ahead in Porsche curves, you're pretty much game.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want to do it here, certainly on the first chicane, because then you've got the second half of the Mulsanne straight here. He will put as much pressure as he possibly can. Also seeing that Harry Wills right on the back there of Justin Ream as well for third place there, so that's a battle we need to keep an eye on here. But have a look at this, all the pressure going on right now. He is going to make a move then, so he is going to go up the inside. He's probably going to have that done before they get into the chicane, but Marino is not letting that go, and Marino going to try and have the inside, and that is very, very wide from John Boutfer, but gets the move done. I think that's too early. Harry Wills gets it going. There's weaving now to stop him getting side by side, but it's too late and loses a lot of time. This is Harry Wills then, who was side by side with Justin Raymond, gets the position into the chicane there. So yeah, that was one of the easiest ones there. Thomas Marino back up in front though, technically, as they're side by side into the chicane. Oh, this is now starting to get a little bit fighty, and I absolutely love it.
Same here. They were really trying to push, weren't they then? Really trying to push. But as it stands at the moment, Boutfer has now made that position once again. So Marino, he's 6/10 back. He is 6/10 back. That might be enough. That simply might be enough. And Marino might not be able to capitalise on that. It has come down a couple of tenths, so key crucial thing here is going on the exit. Does Boutfer get a good exit? Yes, he does. Pretty even Stevens, though. Marino gets an equally good exit, if not a slightly better one. Down the further field, though, Justin Ream, Harry Wills are going to go side by side down into Balls Lane corner. Again, Harry Wills has to concede the position to Justin Ream. And that is now back up into P3, but Harry Wills has now got the opportunity. This is the opportunity that he needs to make if he wants to try and get back. Either this, or then going into the Porsche curves. Steve Martinez has once again passed Eric Kalaga, so that is now up into, as we're going to go cut back to the pro battle right at the very front. It is so very close. You can actually see at the top of the class can't actually make up what it's supposed to be doing and who is actually leading, because they're still side by side. Or how close you want to be to the wall. That was absolutely insane. Mandus, Boutfer, Marino, they are absolutely neck and neck. Look at that. There is nothing in between. I tell you what, whoever leads going into the Porsche chicane and the Porsche curve is pretty much guaranteed to then lead going into the Porsche chicane and ultimately win the race. It's going to be, do you know what, they might even be side by side even more. Last of the late breakers, Boutfer goes late on the brakes, pushes the car through, just about manages to get it stopped in time, compromises ever so slightly, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Marino to come back from that. Needs to have an absolutely stellar move and stellar drive coming out of the Porsche curves, going into the Ford chicanes, going through Corvette. Now it's even, pretty even, but I think, do you know what, Boutfer's got it. Ford chicanes for the last time to go. This is where you don't want to keep it on the tarmac. Don't push, you don't need to, because there's no opportunities for a move to be happening here. Boutfer comes through. Look at that, Marino goes a little bit wide, and that is just confirmation. Boutfer taking the the pro victory here for the pre-qualifiers, with Thomas Marino coming home in P2. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Justin Ream will go through into P3. And Harry Wills, unfortunately, with this happening here, dropping down into P4. Oh, that was a bit of
it's like contact. Yeah, that looked a bit naughty on that one. Obviously, it's only for the qualifying position, but yeah, I get the feeling that Harry Wills and Justin Ream are going to be having little fisticuffs over the rest of the season. Can I just say, Boutfer and Marino, that last lap there, that is... If ever I want to show my friends about sim racing and tell them what it's for, or you get that Norman that comes up and says, it's not real racing, I'm going to show them that lap, and I'm going to say, I think you'll find me, it is absolutely real racing. That was intense, and I'm so proud of all of these drivers tonight. Just brilliant, brilliant racing. Fair, clean, as aggressive as you possibly can get, but absolutely to the letter of the book. Brilliant, brilliant racing all round.
Very much so, yes, indeed, absolutely. Obviously, the World League Series putting on some fantastic series for us. We've got a little bit of battle actually kicking on here. Bruno Alcaraz and Jason Bridges having a nice little tussle here as they go through. Down a bit of weaving, maybe a little bit cheeky here at the moment. And if anything, what this is going to do, this is actually going to slow Bridges down even more, and that's going to be costing him significantly. So unfortunately, that is going to be the case there, and we're just going to cut back to us. So Jeremy Littleton has actually passed. He's gone past the start-finish line. So Jeremy Littleton taking the win in the Pro-Am category. A few more drivers kicking up now, and then Glenn Olsen, there we go, taking the AM victory here for pre-qualifiers, and then Errol Iroxoy taking P2. He seems quite happy, doesn't he? With that, you can just see it as well. So, and we've got Stephen Vadja as well, just 1.6 seconds behind. There is Stephen, the number 97. Cars still continuing to battle, although Jason Bridges and Alcaraz, they are starting to get a little bit closer, actually. I've just noticed they are getting a little bit closer. Is that a little bit wide there from Alcaraz? Possibly. No, I think Bridges has actually cost himself a little bit too much time there. Maybe he's ran a little bit too wide going on the entry into Porsche curves, and that would have cost him just that little bit too much of time. A few more drivers to go, this group here being one of them, and then we'll be able to bring you your official finishing results. And once we bring up the official finishing results, I think we'll be in a position to maybe have a quick couple of interviews, if that is a possibility, and then we'll be able to wrap up.
Yeah, I think that is a spot-on plan for sure. A really, really enjoyable race, and as always, inviting the winning drivers into the broadcast waiting room. But a huge congratulations to John Burt to Jeremy Littleton and to Glenn Olsen. I mean, for Jeremy and for Glenn, they had very dominant victories tonight. They had really, really strong performances. That's not to say that John didn't have a strong performance. It was just, I mean, he was held to account by Thomas Marino. You look at the gaps all through the rest of the field. Yeah, awesome, awesome stuff.
Very much so. We are going to be bringing you the finishing grid in a few moments' time. In fact, I think that is everyone that has finished. So finishing grids on their way up for you now. We're going to run through the Pro-Ams quickly as we go through and bring them up for you. Here they are. So that is the Pro-Ams that you can see up on your screen now. John Buttifer taking the pro win for the Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing by 1.138 seconds on red face by JRT Thomas Marino. Justin Ream takes P3 with Harry Wills just finishing outside of the podium positions in P4. Daniel Tenorio P5, Ryan Kaprowski in 6th, Jason Collette in 7th, David Medino in P8, Wilson Brewer 9th, James Pearce in P10, and Alex Treba taking P11. Down into the Pro-Am categories, we have Jeremy Littleton, Chris Long, Stephen Martinez are your top 3. Eric Kalaga taking P4, Michael Kalaga taking P5, Jay Steffi 6th, Dean Timms in 7th, Andrew Rasmussen in 8th, with John Cooper 9th, Casey Metzger in P10, David Costa 11th, Brent Bravata in 12th, and Michael McCoy in P13. Then finally, the AM categories here. Glenn Olsen taking the pre-qualifying victory by 10.999 seconds over the Twisted Racing White number 63 car of El Iroxoy. Stephen Vadja in P3 with Gary Brown in P4. Bruno Alcaraz rounds out your top 5 with Jason Bridges in 6th. Drew Neubauer 7th, Travis Kepler in P8, Andrew Houston in 9th. Andy Hewitt taking out rounding out the top 10 with HRL, the number 13. Michael Johns in P11 and Daniel Floria in 12. That is your official finishing order, barring any penalties that will be applied. We'll obviously be able to let you know going forward into next week if any penalties applied. I believe, well, in a few moments we are going to be able to have a chat with a couple of drivers, and we'll see how we'll just see if we can get a few people into the driver's period. I tell you what we do have. Let's have a quick chat here with Mr. Errol Yuriksoy. Errol, can you hear me? Errol has decided that he does not want to be a part of the broadcasting group.
He's decided to hide.
And he is now come back. Let us bring Errol back into the broadcasting booth for a second time. Errol, can you hear us? You are on mute if you didn't know.
Yep, sorry about that, guys. Yep, I can hear you.
Brilliant. Right, Errol, how is it going? Congratulations, P2 on the debut round of the RAPC US Season 1. How does that feel for you?
Feels great. Feels great to bring home a podium for my first race out of Twisted. And so, yeah, it's great. Stuck to the strategy. Olsen was a little too fast for me there at the end. He pulled out some pace from somewhere. He had a bag of pace somewhere, and he just drove off into the sunset on me after the second pit stop. So I just settled to bring it home in second.
Well, certainly so. And I think moving forward, this has given you I can imagine this has given you a really, really good, a good foundation moving forward down into round one for next week. What's the game plan going into Hockenheim? Because Hockenheim is a very, very tricky circuit. It's certainly one not to be, you got to be on the ball with. What's the plan?
Lucky for me, I love Hockenheim. Hockenheim's been pretty good to me in the past. It's a track I get. It's a track I've driven a lot of laps in. And I feel like this Porsche in particular kind of likes Hockenheim with the right setup on it. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody's got and seeing what I can do in Hockenheim.
Good stuff indeed. First round as well, and first race for Twisted Racing. I know you've recently come onto the Twisted Racing team, led by our very own Harry Wills, who organises these events. How has it been for you? How was the first race under the new flag, under the new colours?
Oh, it was great. Got a lot of prep from the guys, and Harry especially. So they're looking after me. They set me up for success on this first round. So big thanks to them, all the guys at Twisted, the other drivers. So it's been great.
Brilliant stuff. Well, Errol, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you very much for jumping into the broadcast. It's really, really good to catch up, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you in similar circumstances next week as well.
Right on, guys. Great broadcast. Thanks.
Cheers, Errol. Take care.
Yeah.
That was Errol Yuriksoy in for an interview with us. David, I believe that is all we have time for. That is all she wrote. And we are going to have to wrap up round number one. Quick final thoughts from yourself. How did you feel that was overall? I mean, by the sounds of it, you were excited, and I'm really, really glad as well, because you certainly, you do seem very, very excited for this season, for these seasons ahead.
Yeah, and obviously I wanted that to come across as genuine and sincere earlier on in the EU broadcast, and it's exactly the same here for the US one. A fantastic series, like I said, spoiled with all of the action that we had there. Absolute testament to the community, the league here, and yeah, brilliant stuff. Really looking forward to seeing more of it, and a proper beacon in sim racing. That is how it's done.
Very much so. You are absolutely correct. But as I said, that is all we have time for. Thank you everyone for tuning in for the pre-qualifying. Next week, round number one of the Porsche, the RWPC kicks off and kicks underway. So the RAPC. Kicks off the US season as well as the EU season as well. Make sure you stick around. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Absolute Sim Racing YouTube channel as well for updates on all of our broadcasts moving forward. My name is Daniel Hanover. Joining me David Christie has joined me in the commentary box. A pleasure to commentate alongside him as always. We will be back for next week for round number one of both series. Stick around. Make sure you don't go anywhere. It's going to be absolutely amazing. If this pre-qualifier is anything to go by, this season is going to be fantastic. We look forward to seeing you then.